Okay, there we go. I think we're finally going. Unfortunately, very, very new to the live streaming stuff. So lots and lots of problems. Anyway, I'm going to go through for D20 dungeons. I'm going to try and add. When I try, I'm going to make a map, show people how they can make their own maps and add it to the arena. So we'll start off with first where they can find the editor. If you go to your library where the D20 Dungeons is installed, you right click on that, go to properties, you'll want to browse your local files. Mine's installed on the D drive. So if you hit browse, and it popped up on the other screen here, this will show you where the files are installed. Don't need that anymore. So this is where the game itself is installed. Um, you might want to consider backing things up before you start mucking around in here. It's relatively safe. I think the biggest one would be the save games. You can even just like make a copy of that and drop it somewhere, and that would be the biggest thing that you would lose if anything got crazy. Otherwise, you could just reinstall the game. I haven't had any real problems, but you never know. So anyhow, if you want to get in to run the editor, you go to the tools, Forge Edit, and there you can see the editor. So I will double click on the editor to start up the editor. This is like a little message window for my errors and notifications and whatnot. Okay, so for this tutorial, we're not going to create a module. We're going to use one of the existing modules. We're going to use the arena. That's the, well, I'll give you a look at what that is like in a second here. So we're going to open an existing module, and that's the arena. And let's actually play the game inside the editor. P for play. And I'm going to just show you quickly what it is that we are going to be making, where this is going to go, just in case it doesn't make sense. Just drag a few people in here, my go-to group. So grab a few people and we'll set off to adventures. It might look a little strange and blurry here because this size is not like really a size made to play the game. It's just the window inside the editor. And let's go to the arena and hit play. So we have our typical, you can add your creatures and whatnot. And you go to the map and you get to choose a map. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to add a map. I don't know why we have multiple pictures in there. That's interesting. So you'll build we're going to add a new map here that we could play from. So if we went in here, we would play. We could play the game from here. Actually, because you're in the editor, you could do a few other things here. You can turn lighting on and off. You can do your grid on and off. I wouldn't get too crazy though with changing some of these stuff until you really know what you're doing. It's not like it's major disaster, but like best off not touching. Okay, so we'll toggle playing the game. So, oh hi, who's that? Chavat. Hi, thanks for tuning in here. I'll try and keep an eye on the chat. Like I said, I'm pretty newbie on this. Um, and of course, I did everything wrong. I updated the game just before I went online, and I also didn't write a script. So we're somewhat winging it here, but like I've done it several times to know that it can be done. There's actually a web page I have. Where is it? That's the manuals right here. Yeah, a web page that you could go to. It's what would the main page be to get to? Again, I was new to the whole wiki stuff. I think sitemap is start. Yeah, this is the start of it here. But I started doing a tutorial here, and you can see them like piece by piece of how to do it, and it's pretty clear. But I just, as I got halfway through it, I thought, you know what, I prefer to have these things done as a video, so I decided we had best do a video, and I'll get back to doing this. Stuff actually takes a long time to do, believe it or not. So this is the wiki here, in case anyone's looking. D20 Dungeons wiki, Dooku wiki. Start. Imagine you don't even have to hit that. Yeah, it's going to default to that. So if you want to find out some more information there, maybe I'll use that to kind of follow along what I'm doing myself. Okay, so we're going to make something called the Ruined Crypt. We're going to make this map right here. So let's start working at that. Module. We already, first thing we want to do is we want to create a new area. Okay, and I call all of my areas, they start with area, as lame as that is. I'm going to call it Ruined Crypt. This is the size, the dimensions, like 20 by 20 is just basically like the square grids that you would get on, your basic tabletop map. And each grid is 5 feet. This can be changed afterwards, so I wouldn't get crazy about this. In hindsight, I don't even know why I necessarily entered it. This did a few things behind the scenes, so you might want to do save. I don't have an autosave. The editor seems pretty stable, to be honest with you. I've made a lot of maps with it and whatnot, but it couldn't hurt to save once in a while. So this made our new map here. And they're called actually areas because an area is more than just a picture, a map. It has a map in it, and it also has like other stuff in it too, right? It'll have like creatures, and it'll have, as you'll see, like collision for line of sight and for lights and whatnot. So an area contains a map. An area is not a map. So for starters, why don't we look at what we are going to use for our map? Where did I put it? I moved it actually into here. You guys don't have a copy of this, but there is a copy of it on that site. You could download this here, I believe, and it'll be the correct image if you want to use it. So that is this image here. If you open it up, you can see it. I believe each square, the resolution I use, this one's a bit blurry, I believe is 128 by 128 per pixel. How can I find that out? Here's a cheater way to find it out. Make a new image. Yeah, 128 by 128. This one here is a little grainy actually, but that's the resolution I use. So we're going to use this map, and the way this works is you have to cut these things up into tiles. Instead of just showing the one piece big map, we're going to see it in tiles. So the first thing we will do is we're going to import it. It's called Make Tiles. So we want to browse to where it is. I have this like in a ton of different places. Where is it on my drive? D. Program files. Steam. Steam apps. Common. D20 Dungeons. There it is. That's where I put mine. 512 is the dimensions of each tile. It's like 512 pixels by 512 pixels. This is too small, and shockingly, the effort to make it bigger is far too hard. Put it that way. This is interesting. I don't get these little lines on mine. I wonder if it's something to do with the 1080p. It's not refreshing. So this is going to cut it up and put it. It doesn't really matter what this does, but for people who are curious, it's going to in the modules directory. This is the module we're doing. Atlases is a special name for a group of sprites, and the Ruined Crypt, just so it has its own directory name. And it's going to take a little bit, and it's going to cut them up. And actually, this progress bar is telling you what it's doing if you get really stuck. You shouldn't have to use it. It's more for my purposes. I just felt there was no reason to shut it off, to be honest with you. Okay, so we have the Ruined Crypt. We've imported all of our sprites. The first thing we should probably do is open. I'm going to open the error by double clicking it. Actually, I'm going to show you another one just to show you that opens up an area. This is the area. We've seen this map if you played the game, and then you can close the area. So you can open up areas, look at them, do stuff to them, and then close them. So for our ruined crypt, we have nothing in there. We have this grid. I need to document some of this stuff. I tried to copy a lot of what some of the other stuff did, like Unity and stuff. So if you hold Alt down left mouse button, you can pan this around. The mouse wheel zooms in and out. If you hit Control, I think it makes it go crazy fast. It's not really needed anymore. I don't even know why I kept that in, to be honest with you. So let's start off by creating a little square, a tile for the image we made. And the way we do that, I guess we could talk a little bit here. Remember how I said like an area is not just a map, it has stuff in it. This is the map grid. So like we could toggle it visible on and off. We could change its size. We could change how big the lines are if we really wanted to. I guess we could make that 5. Of course, it crashes. I never changed that. Well, that'll learn you. Oops, I'm running the game here. Mental note, fix the line width. Okay. I don't think anyone wants to change the line width anyhow. And you can change the color, but clearly it's a danger zone at this point, isn't it? Okay, so if we open up that level again, this I guess is not important too much for these people, for you people. But these are layers, just like you would see in like Photoshop and some other graphical programs. We're going to put anything in the background on the background, and it'll draw starting from the back to the front. So whatever we put on the background, the ground will go on top of it, then the objects will go on top of it, then the creatures, and so on. Collision and further down is generally not shown in the game. They're shut off by default. They're not visible. More on that. These things here, down here at the bottom, this is like my layers palette. This is almost an exact copy of basically Photoshop here. And you can like make things visible and you can lock stuff. So let's start, this will make more sense. Let's just start getting rid of that here. We're going to create an entity on the background. That'll pop up over here. And I'm going to call it tile 0 underscore 0. And the 0 refers to X and the other 0 refers to Y. It'll be more obvious shortly what that means. We add a component because we want something to draw, a token component. I could actually make a shortcut to do this for you, but like I thought maybe it'd be interesting for people to see how it's done. And we're going to attach a sprite. So these are all the sprites in the game. You can click these over to thumbnails. I will do it, but if they're not built, they won't show right away. Great. It's probably because they're not built, but you don't need it right now. Of course, this when you do a demo, this is exactly what happens, right? So we added a new area under the modules, under the arena, and we called it the crypt. And there's all the pieces we made. So this is going to be the first tile. You'll see what I'm talking about. If you just double click on it, F will frame it. That's the first tile. I know that looks really weird, but the reason I did that because it's this tile down here. When I initially did it, I had black in there, so it looks like nothing shows up and it looks like an error. So I just threw something in there just so you know, yes, this is a tile. So it looks like I made it into objects, but that doesn't matter. You can drag it into background. I put it into background. I don't know how I got that into objects. Did I right click on? Oh, I know why. Because objects is highlighted down here. That's your active one, your active layer. I don't make maps that often. So if you left click on here, you can select this tile. To unselect stuff, you can hit spacebar. You can do basic selection like that, like selecting multiple things. There's only one thing right now. But here's the one tile, and we're going to duplicate it. Control D will make a new one, and I can drag it over here, and we're going to call that tile 1. Oh, come on. Let me have this a quick gander what's going on here. Modules. The root crypt. It looks fine. I wonder, one more thing. Let me look at one more thing here. That should be fine. Let's try that again. So I want to change what this guy is. Yeah, thank God. So these refer to the X and Y's because we're starting from the left and we're moving to the right. The next one's going to be called 1, 0. Now you can see that piece there corresponds to this piece here. So we'll take this one. It's going to get easier once we do a row. We'll make another piece, and we're going to call this tile 2, 0. And we're going to get the next one, 2, 0. See how that lines up. Control D for duplicate. Get the next tile. We're going to increment that to tile 3, 0. That's the next piece there. And then we're going to duplicate that. You can see these filling up over here. These are all the different tiles. So this one we were at 3, 0, so we're at 4, 0. And 4, 0. So now we have the bottom. Now there's actually one more. And this is how I remember I said we didn't care too much about the grid. We're going to fix the grid up. 5, 0 is a partial one, if I recall correctly. I've done this one enough. Yeah, this is not a full. Oh, I forgot to move it over. So we can see our grid is not quite big enough. So that's simple enough. We just go to our grid and we make it a bit bigger. I'm going to save it. I'm a little paranoid at this point. 2. So that makes it bigger. That's going to be our grid. So we've got one whole row. We could just select the whole row and hit Control D to duplicate. Slide the whole thing up. I'm just zooming in. So this is the next row up. So everything's going to be y is equal to 1. So we change these to 1. Now I could have made a script to do this, but you know, like, unfortunately everything takes time and you don't do this a lot. So the next one, and instead I could be actually doing a feature. Like right now I'm putting crawling into the game. I'm going to put the next release, I'm going to do crawling, charge, finally charge, and running. That'll allow me to do a few more feats and a few more special abilities like the rogue. 3, 1. See, once you do the first row, it definitely goes faster. 4, 1. So that's one. Oh no, one more. 5, 1. 5, 1. There we go. So there's another row. So now we'll just take, I guess you could get tricky, you could grab all of them, but I like to do one row at a time. Duplicate with Control D. And this one is up 2. So basically keep adding 1 to that last number for each row. So 0, 2. And this guy is going to be 1, 2. 2, 2. Three, 2. There you go. 4, 2. Should have wrote down those crashes on that line size. I'll have to remember. I can just watch my own live stream. Lee, when you watch your live stream, write down the lines as a crash. There we go. This is also, you notice how it's jumping there. It's snapping to grid. Better save this before I try anything. Right here. You could shut that off so it doesn't snap to grid. I generally leave that on. Well, especially for this stuff. There's stuff that you won't want it on. So this is the next row 3. Some other stuff here I wonder if I should bother explaining. You could shade the sprite. I'm not going to do it right now for fear of... come on, have some confidence, Lee. Come on. So we could shade this like a red. You see how that's shaded? I don't know how often you would want to do that. It's really... I exposed it simply because it's there. It's just really part of my own engine, so there was no reason not to expose it. And alpha, you could make it transparent. This one's probably a little more iffy. So 1 is fully opaque, 0 is transparent fully, 50 is like halfway, right? So let's keep it full. Where were we? 1, 4. No. Where were we here? 1, 2, 1, 3. Row 3. There we go. 2, 3. I think this sort of thing is pretty common for stuff like Roll20 and other VTTs. The same sort of battle maps that do this sort of tiled stuff. I guess it originally came from video games as tiling. 5, 3. Well, actually, not really. I guess there was, I don't know if anyone remembers the dungeon geomorphs from really early AD&D. So I'm selecting this row again. We can see all our ties being built there. You don't really have to do anything with them once they're built. Control D to duplicate. We're on our last row. Home stretch. This one's technically going to be black. So to deselect there, I hit space if you want. But I guess you could select and you could just select nothing is another way to do it. So left click to select that. We're on row 4. Almost done here. That one's black. It's a waste, but you know, it's not really going to matter. For me, releasing it, I wouldn't release a map with a black square, but nobody's going to know. And it's not really even going to be a performance hit of any kind of note. It's more of an OCD hit. There we go. We're almost done here. And 5, 4. Okay, I'm going to save it. So that's our map. And because it's on the background layer here, I'm left clicking to do that. It's going to be drawn first. So anything drawn after this on these layers, like anything on the ground, will be on top. So we can, if this is how we select, if you recall, you could drag or you could just single select. If you hit the lock button here, make it green, you can no longer select anything here. Very useful. So that you don't end up selecting stuff you don't want to. You could also make it invisible. You could hide it. But we want to keep that on for now. So the other component for a map, I'm just going to hide this, collapse it, is collision. These are the walls to make it so you can't walk through stuff. we make this, it has to be on the collision layer. Anything on the collision layer is for collision only. And we have a special tool here. It's a line drawing tool. You click it. There are some very minor basic instructions here. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to trace walls like we've seen in lots of other VTTs. So left click to put a point down. Now this tool needs a touch of work. I was holding Alt. If I hold Alt and left click, I can pan around. So just to show you a bit about it, I'm going to end it by hitting escape. So we end that line and end the tool. You can select the points there. I don't know if you see that. There's these little points here. And you can drag these around, which is useful. So that is good for some fine adjusting. Now, actually what we saw there, that was because I had the snap on. So if I turn the snap on, you can freely move it how you want. You can tweak it how you want. I'm left clicking on that. If the magnet's on, the reason the magnet for the snap the grid, this is not, no, it did snap. Wasn't sure if it would. I guess I was just so close to the grid before, or I didn't notice it snapped. Yeah, okay, so that would snap. The downside with the tool is the starting and stopping is not so hot. I don't have something that can say snap to this one exactly, so I would start slightly there to make sure it overlaps. Escape to finish. And then again, I am going to start slightly down here. That is a bit lame. It works fine, but it bothers me. I want to snap. The next version I'll have it so it snaps to that. You can do right click to end a line. So let's just whip through some of these. So there will also be another layer called the line of sight layer, and that is the one that lighting will use and blocking vision for other creatures. The good thing is we will not have to make a new one. We'll just copy, like with the delete, Control D, and paste it onto the another layer. I don't think I have a single map that they're not the exact same. It's more of a future thing. That'd be for stuff like Windows and I don't know, possibly some other magical effects. You'll never see that little icon there. That was just there to let us know that it was working. I guess make sure you cross that. Okay, escape to exit the tool. Space is so I'm not selecting. I guess I want to tweak that a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so that is our collision. Oh, I just realized, whenever I've done this in the past, I didn't put collision on these things. Let's do that because it makes the lighting look a little bit better. Now there is a performance hit for the more you do of these, but I don't think it's that bad. I guess what I'm saying is don't go crazy like probably don't want to go too crazy like that. Control Z is your undo. Control Y to redo. I didn't even like that guy. So let's delete him. Just delete key. So let's just rough something in here. You could almost be a box. I guess that turned out to be like a hexagon. This is a fallen pillar. Yeah. And just close. Yeah, I want one that'll snap to that. Okay, cool. Done. So I'm going to select all of them on the collision layer. And I'm going to do Control D. And the new ones that we've made are all selected. And I'm going to drag and drop them onto the line of sight layer. You can actually see that they're different ones because if I hide the collision, we still see stuff. If I hide the line of sight, they're gone. So collision's on. line of sight's on. And I usually lock them and keep them hidden. That is almost it. Uh, the next big thing are flags. This is like our GM layer. I tend to call it flags. I rename it. Hello. Where do I rename? Is it rename here? Come on. Double left click should be rename. Of course, it's not. Doesn't want to rename. Okay, it's not important that it's just for aesthetic value anyhow. If we go to the blueprints here, these are all the things you can make and stuff here. Like, for example, here's our bandit armor. That maybe is kind of interesting to look at. If you go over here, these are all the pieces that are making up the armor. So we have a component. Anything that's a thing has value. This is how much copper it costs. That's how heavy it is. These are all these values I'm sure people have seen. Like hardness, this is new from the last release. It's hit points. Stack, how many can stack on top of each other in the inventory. So bandit has armor. Here's this armor statistics. And token. So if I create one, you can create one. You can make one appear. Let's make it appear on, say, the objects layer. If you double click on that, you will get a bandit piece of armor right here. And that's why we have a token, because that's what drew that. If we did not have a token, you wouldn't, nothing would show up here. So that's just kind of a neat thing. And actually, another neat thing about this is that I believe a shield is a little unique. There's shield. Armor, probably under shields. Odd that. Let's look at the heavy shield here. So, I guess I created one, yeah. So a shield is also a thing. You know, it has its material types. You could have the different materials. I'm sure this stuff is looking familiar to a lot of people. What type of size it is, right? This sort of stuff probably makes sense if you know much about the game system. So it is a shield, but it is also a weapon. See how we have a weapon here too? Because yes, you can do, it is a weapon. Where's the damage on here? I'm missing the damage. It's on. Sound banks. These are the sounds that it plays when you know, if something is being swung, it plays that sound. Shooting, thrown, thrust. Token, again, the picture of it. I thought shield, yeah, shield also has a shield. It's different than an armor, right? Because the way the game mechanics work, it can't be the same as armor. So a little inside ball there. People can look at that. But what we want under miscellaneous, we want a world flag. And these world flags are used to tell me where to spawn, where the people, where your party members will start. And we rename this to party spawn 1. So this is where the very first character that comes on the level, he will appear here. They will appear here. Control D to duplicate and spawn 2. So it's the same sort of thing. I guess we could do 2 at once now. We duplicate 2. One of them is going to be called spawn 3, and they have to be called this. I think at a later date I'll make something a little more, you know, maybe possibly random order. I kind of like to know though the marching order. I don't know what you guys. Kind of like to know that the first person I put in the group is the person that's going to be at the front, so we don't have our mage in the front taking the initial brunt. So these 4 are where, or 6 are where the party will spawn. And we can duplicate one of these, and this is where the monsters are going to spawn. We call them mobs, and we're going to change that one to mob 1. So the first mob to spawn will be there. Control D duplicate. This will be the second one. I believe I have up to 8. You choose how you want to place these. I guess I have some kind of logic in my head. I'm doing Control D to make new ones. Renaming all of them. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. I'm going to double them up here just for fun. 5. And I snapped a grid off. I wondered why that was doing that. Control D. 6. Control D. There. Honked at me for some reason. Let's put this guy in the room. And why not? Let's just try and be somewhat symmetrical. So there's our 8 spawn points. So they'll get spawned in the same order. If you only have one monster, for now it's always going to spawn here. You get an F to frame, but frame only centers actually. I noticed that when I was doing this tutorial. It doesn't actually center into the screen and zoom in, it just centers. We are almost done. Oh, lights. Let's say we want, you don't have to have lights, but let's put some lights into it. And where do I normally put the lights on? I put the lights on, I believe I do put it on objects. That's a good point, I forget. So let's go look. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to close it. Let's look at one that I've done. For example, layer A. Okay. Where did I put lights on its own layer? Okay. So I'm going to close this. We'll go back to our ruined crypt. The editor is pretty fast, really. So really, it could be like I renamed this on the other one for me. I don't know why it's not renaming. It's really annoying. I'm going to put it on this layer. It could be on the same layer. This is just for organization purposes, really. I guess it is order of drawing, but like it's not going to matter for almost anything you put it on there because almost everything on here is going to be invisible. So I am going to lock those because that's where my flags are, I think. Oh, where did I put my flags? Objects. Huh, that is incorrect. Why didn't you guys tell me? Yeah. Okay, well that's nothing to change. So we'll go back to objects because we don't want them drawn. You could put them on there. It would work, but you don't want to see these little flags, or maybe you do. I don't know. It's your level. Make it how you want. So I'm going to just drag these into GM0. Now they're out of there. So when I hide GM0, they disappear. Stuff like this I generally lock because I don't want to be messing them up. Okay. So what were we doing? We're going to make some lights. We'll make a couple of lights. And I'm going to put them on this layer. So I select this layer. And I'm not going to create entity. I actually decided I would make you guys a little blueprint of a basic point light. So I just double clicked on that and it'll appear point light right there. And there we are there. There it is here. F, well, F doesn't zoom in, it just centers it. So this is our light. You can adjust stuff here. The color is pretty good already. This is generally what I use. The radius is 20 foot. The increased part is not used right now. It's kind of implicit that I believe you get full light at 20 and you get increased light at the next 20. I think that's what the 2 refers to, but the 2 unfortunately is not used right now. So you really just need a light. Cast shadows. If you don't have that set, then it'll just brighten stuff, but it won't make any shadows. So like we're going to put this light over here. Because we have blocking here, this will cast a shadow. But if I had this clicked off, it wouldn't cast a shadow. This is one other unfortunate thing with the editor. There's no way to test lighting right here. Like if I turn the lighting on, it's not going to show. And that's on my to-do. It's not a hard thing to do, but I haven't done it. The editors could be a little bit better, but I'm generally the only one that's been using it. So I'll be putting more effort into the editor now that I've released it. So let's hide that just because it's annoying. Where was that? Yeah. Why do I have those? This is a little collision and line of sight. I don't want to see those. Okay. So there's our light. It doesn't need to be centered, but my OCD says yes, it must be centered. So that's why I shut that off. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't need to be called anything. I'm just going to Control D and duplicate it. I don't know why I like putting them behind these pillars. What's up with that, eh? Maybe just feels like it should be in that corner. Let's put another one. I don't know. I'm into darkness. I'm not going to do that. These lights here, actually, you should really probably have something that even tells you, hey, this is a light, not just like, like a brazier or a torch, really, torch, scone or something. Whatever. We're just going to have a floating light that's randomly there for now. Doesn't matter whether you say show it or not, because the game is not going to show you anything past collision on. Only these levels are going to show you stuff. So we have light, collision, we have just about everything. Let's just look. This is some really nitty gritty stuff. Let's see. You don't need to set any of this stuff in. If you know how to program Lua, that's what that's related to. Let me just show you a little bit of the Lua. You can write Lua in the game. Everything is Lua. So for example, because I'm working on this crawling here, this is the code to say show the help for crawling. So when I get a pop-up, it's going to say crawl. It's going to check to see if you have a movement action. And when you click on it, it's going to bring up a tool. I have a crawl tool you can see up here. It's going to run this tool and that'll allow the user to click on it, choose their destination. So this is how the Lua is going to work and all this stuff. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to do a test. Let's just see if it's going to run or if I missed a step. Oh, it did. How about that? So the little swords, what this is, this runs the game in test mode. Well, it's not really the game, the area, only the area. Now we can do our lights. So now we see this guy has dark vision. Let's move him just for the fun of it. Now we see everything. See the shadows. And we're seeing this funny light here because I guess I have to do something for dark vision, make it a little different color to let people know that this is the dark vision doing that. Apparently this one has no light. So cast light, just get some light going. I should have something interesting with the editor. And that is these light levels here. This is a little debug thing. And this is a game mechanic you're seeing here. The solid blue means everything in that area is getting full light. The semi next level down is dim light. And anything else has no light. And now we're seeing light there, but this is based on a mechanic. This is like the game mechanics. This is underneath the scene. I'm a bit surprised that one has nothing, because maybe it just doesn't quite have enough light. This one here is if you have low light vision, so you can see twice as much. Let's move her around so we can see. This cleric's my favorite cleric somehow. She became my favorite cleric. So this craziness. So she had low light vision. We're seeing some crazy stuff here, and the reason why initially I'm looking at this and I'm like, why is this a bit low light? And this over here, because we have a light source over here, right? Or where is it? Somewhere up here. I guess it's somewhere up here. So these are all full light. So this stuff is used actually already as perception checks, and will be used as I'm not sure how much is using it, but it's used for perception checks. So when a creature goes walking by, so we can see our lighting is working. Let's stop play. We are almost done with this map. There is one more thing that needs to be done. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it super easy, but it's not bad. If we go back to our tools, and let's back up to where the game's installed. This is where all the art for the game is in assets. So if we go find the area we just made, assets, It's under the modules, the arena. We want to go to the Lua files. Lua, don't worry, it's not a big deal to do it. In the areas, here's all the areas. We just made this area. So if I open this area, this is Lua code. Now, if you don't Lua, then you're going to be able to do even more. But all you have to do is here, delete these two lines. Because this area needs to be added to the module. It needs a way to know, hey, this area is actually an area that we're going to use for arena. We have to do the name of our area. Area Ruined Crypt. Myself, I would be doubly sure and I would go look. All the areas are in area. Sorry, I have to back up and back up. It's in areas. I know there's multiple areas. It's this file name here. It's the same name as you created it, as we created it. So that's our area. Now we need a sprite or a picture that we're going to see in that preview. So what I did, let's minimize these. I had a preview one. That was the one thing I didn't think to get. Okay, well, we'll make one quick here. I'm just going to resize this bad boy to 512. That's good. So I want it 512 by 512 square. It doesn't have to. Actually, let's do something a little interesting, just for fun. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Say, okay. Let's just fill this into black. Where's my mouse? Why is it not showing up? My mouse pointer is not showing up. It's because my software is from God knows when. Come on. Magic wand. Why is my magic wand not working? Maybe it is, I'm just not seeing it. That's weird. There we go. Unless I had something else set wrong, I guess. This is your Photoshop tutorial here, going crazy. Sorry for my Photoshop lack of skills. And I guess this is going to look a little rough if we don't cover this up, eh? I didn't clean this up because I figured you're not going to see it in the game anyhow, but let's clean it up a little bit. Just so we're not looking too ridiculous. Okay, so that's a bit better looking demo. I guess you could do funny stuff to it. Inner shadow, inner glow. Just do it to the outside. I'd have to do a trace and stuff, so I'm not going to bother. So I'm going to resize it now to 512. That's not a bad thumbnail. Where do you want to put your thumbnail? You want to put it right where we imported that big map. So if you go to Assets, Modules, the Arena, Atlases, Ruined Crypt. And I guess we could just call it Ruined Crypt. You want to make sure it's not the same as any of these. That'd be a funny preview. You could call it preview, but whatever it is, make sure you have that name. Save it. And I'm going to go back to that Lewis script and I'm going to say See, I put mine in previews. That's why I think I'm seeing multiple previews right now in that game. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Ours is in Atlas's. Let's just be sure. It's in Ruined Keep. Atlas's The Ruined Crypt. There we go. So when the game starts up, this is another interesting little thing here. This is when you do the little test the game. It's going to spawn the party here. So when we're running in test mode, this is going to be the code that gets called. And we have something called the pregens. Let's look at the pregens just for fun, quickly. I have you guys would have all of these files, but they're what they call compiled, so they're not the easiest to look at. But you can see the pregens here. These are all the pre-generated characters. So you could spawn these guys in that test level. Where did the test level go? That's where it's doing this. It's going to default the default party I have, which you always see. I'm trying to think what it is. It's my A-team party, I guess. Okay, so let's see if it just works. Can we get that lucky? Okay, so let's close the level. Let's try and play the game. Create a new one. Bear. I love Bear. Gilmo. Gwenhala. Who else do we like? Benton's good. I don't know. I'm not digging Address as much. Simkin. Does anyone know that name? We'll take Helgar, whatever. So, if we go to Adventures, the arena, play. Ooh, I can tell you there's an error already. Failed to find. Maybe I have to restart. Should have imported that sprite. Maybe, you know what? It's because I imported that sprite from outside of the game. So it hadn't imported it yet. I had something in there used to check to see when stuff changed on the hard drive if it did reload it, but I guess that's not working on that. So let's go back and start the editor again. I guess we could have started the game, but I tend to use the editor for all this stuff. Just because it's kind of nice. You can see things. Okay. Let's try and run the game. New game. Okay, Address, we'll give you a shot. We'll give you a shot, whatever. Okay, Adventures. The arena. Let's get some giant ants going. A couple giant ants. This is really assuming it's going to work, eh? Let's get some scents going. 2, 4. Kobolds. Everyone's, you gotta have some kobolds. Maps. There. Now it's showing. Look at that. What the players see. Huh. Apparently Lee didn't fill this out, eh? Well, it proves the point. This is what the players see, right? So let's play that map. You see, if I didn't put that space around there, it wouldn't have looked as nice there. Not that it looks that great, but let's turn the lights on. There we go. This is the problem when you test, is you want to play it then, and you don't want to lose. So there we have our ants for the first one spawned in there. What else we got going on? Let's fire a shot off into him, eh? Now, unfortunately, if I turn the lights off, we won't just see everyone. I'll have to expand the tools a bit, but we can see there's guys in there that are flat foot, right? Who's this guy? Oh, Bear. See, Andrews is all right. He's got lights, right? Let's put it on the yeah, so he's my beacon. Gilmo. I love the two weapon Gilmo dude. But there's no light out here, so he's not going to see anything. Oh, I guess he sees over here. There we go. See, those guys must have moved. That's our level. Trying to think what else I can show you here. Oh, this shows the grid numbers. I'm not sure if that works well. Yeah, it does. They're hard to see. These are the cell numbers. This here are trigger volumes, but I don't think there's any trigger volumes for this. This would be, you'll see that if somebody casts a spell. Garbage collection, you probably don't want to touch that. And that would be about it. So a few bumps. Clearly I have to look into that. But yeah, there you go. You can add a map in the arena. I did have an adventure started with like the forest and a cave encounter that I was going to use for the tutorial, but the forest ended up wanting to have treetops. So I don't have support for treetops. I want to have the ability to make the trees go transparent when you get close to them or underneath them. So instead of, it looked just kind of weird if you had stumps or if you had trees and then you walked on the trees. So hopefully that one will come out next. So the next release though will be game related, like I said, the crawling and the running and the charging, some of those combat stuff, and then I'll probably maybe I'll switch back and forth, do gameplay and then a little bit on the editor, depending on how popular the editor turns out to be. So I guess that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you try and make a map and have some success, and maybe even post a screenshot. That'd be cool.